No, it's me. Sorry, I'm a little scared about it. Reminder for anybody to please silence your mobile devices if you have one with you. And I ask Commissioner Pittman to, that's the invocation for it.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity, God, to get together, dear Lord, and do your business, do your business and the citizens of Mitchell County's business, God. We ask that you grant us discernment, dear Lord. We ask, dear Lord, that you just allow us to make the best decision possible to help the citizens of our county, dear God. And we ask that you just help us, dear Lord, see past, all the issues that are facing our nation today, dear God, and just grant us wisdom. We thank you most of all for your Son, Jesus Christ, who died for our sins. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Can I ask our new EDC director, Mr. Matthew Morton, please say a pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are you? Want you to come later.
Awareness and conflict of interest. Have any conflict of interest this evening? Hearing none, do we have any additions or changes to the agenda this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose the following changes to the agenda for police as you remove item 9D, which is tractor, and replace it with a presentation from the Substance Abuse Task Force for a maximum of 7 minutes. Add item 11Q, which is the adoption of the Mitchell County floodplain ordinance.
Do I have a motion that we make these changes to the agenda this evening? So moved. Second. All in favor, vote with the usual sign. Motion carries. Everyone please make note that we'll be removing item number 9D from the tractor and replacing it with a presentation from the Substance Abuse Task Force. And we're also adding item 11Q for the adoption of Mitchell County floodplain ordinance. Do I have a move we adopt the agenda this evening?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, vote with the usual sign. Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
Chairman, if you did not hear, I would like to make a motion to table the approval of the minutes until our next meeting.
Second. Got a motion to table, second. All in favor, vote with the usual sign. Motion carries. Item number 9 is a public hearing. This is for the proposed 5311 and 5310 community transportation program application for the fiscal year 2024. The board will need to move to enter in the public hearing. Transportation Director Sheila Blaylock will be here to present any answers to any questions. So I have moved we open my public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, vote with the usual sign. We are in the public hearing. Any questions or concerns on this one? Hearing none, I have moved we close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, vote with the usual sign. Ms. Sheila, you get to move forward.
Okay,
You,
go ahead.
well, we didn't have any questions or any comments or anything. so
You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, keep it easy.
You want me to say on the resolution? On grants or anything?
What's that? Okay.
No.
Commissioner Harding would like you to get us an update. So,
You don't get to go that easy.
I want you to go ahead.
No, ma'am.
You want me to go up to the?
Please.
The public hearing was on, the FY24 grants that, we apply for every year. No different. Amounts are a little bit different.
This is the least amount, on a grant, on a capital grant that we've ever done. The administrative grant, that is a fixed amount on the state, they see this what we can apply for. The capital grant, with their people's, capital needs, like this year, we, have a HVAC in the grant, a few other things in one vehicle. But this is the smallest amount for a capital grant because, we have no vehicles that we're applying for FY 24, nothing is submitted sheets for life for 100,000 years. In FY 24, and so the only thing we're asking for is a copier. So that's the first time in my history anyway, that's ever happened for that small amount. The 5310 grant that you see is the same amount that we've applied for the senior center for the last, 4 or 5 years. And that's for elderly and disabled, or there again, the senior center to do, trips. The senior center uses this to go on Sundays. So, that's what that amount is for. And anything else you want? We're just rolling.
Everything going well,
Everything's going good.
as your title.
Going good. We've had over 1,200 trips.
Got any sponsors for it?
Not yet. We haven't put the packet together, so we will be working on it FY 24 pretty soon.
John's already on
And
with that.
I think he's down by now.
That's what I mean, yeah, sponsor, he's the first one, yeah.
But anyway, we're gonna be putting the packet together. Matt's EDC is gonna work with me and Chamber of Commerce. Mandy has agreed to work with us, and so we're gonna be putting the packet together and delivering, around town this first. Anything else? Thank you.
Next item on the agenda this evening is the recognition of the employee of the month. Mr. Bud Jones, don't mind to step up here, sir. Just want to say congratulations, Bud. You've been nominated and selected as the employee of the month winner for August. This recognition is for going above and beyond the call of duty in your role as the income maintenance investigator at DSS. In addition to your great attitude, professionalism, and courteous manners with everyone, this recognition is for your willingness and contributions for assisting with energy assistance, helping with the providers to enroll in the energy portal, managing payments, updating the DSS disaster plans, and assisting leadership to implement the tasks within the agency. Always there to assist moving offices when needed, completing any needed handyman tasks such as assembling furniture, etc. Helping the program manager in providing safety measures for the building and staff when upset parents show up. Like going out.
I know where that's going.
It sounds like you, man, to take care of it. Bud never complains about taking the lead and demonstrating teamwork. On many occasions, when the public comes into office upset over their investigation, they often leave more than willing to work with Bud. He always remains calm, takes extra measures to inform and assist the public. No matter the circumstances, Bud's always respectful, courteous, professional, and goes above to ensure the absolute best service is provided to everyone. Congratulations on being selected as the Mitchell County Employee of the Month winner for August. On behalf of the County Commissioners of Mitchell County, we thank you for your support and service, and the co-workers and citizens of the county. Thank you. They will give you this flag here.
We got new pictures.
That's small, real big, man. Photo ball over there.
Yeah.
Over here. Thank you, bud. It's just pretty. Thank you for what you do, man. Next item on the agenda this evening is the tax collectors.
Good evening.
I have for you the August report, the collections activity. The total collected was $1,946,270.18. So that's it. We'll continue on. For pleasure activity, pay plan for the established 32 taxpayers. To prevent foreclosure, so. And there's actually 12 in foreclosure with attorney by staff. One is going to continue to stay at the courthouse.
How many do we have in pay plans, you say? Is
32,
that new or just total?
it's continuing. I keep adding on
Gotcha.
each month.
Can you add your update every month, how much?
How
money
much
we calling
dollars?
back? Yeah, I
Do
know.
you want the balance or do you want beginning or ending? What? Balance.
I like, what you sent me in the email,
Yeah.
this past time was great. That's,
Okay.
that's perfect.
I'll do that.
If you bring that information to share,
I will.
I
I'll do
think
that.
that's great.
I will do that.
I think back in July, I'm saying this right, July or August. The month is rolled by quickly. We were at about $130,000 that we have gotten back to the county. So if you can keep updating us on that, that'd be great.
I sure will.
Yeah. Next on the agenda is one of my favorite people. We speak about Hillary, Miss Gina Phillips. Come on up.
I don't know, I wish you guys get people to speak that don't ask for anything.
Gina, it's good to see you.
Welcome.
I'm getting happy said I'm just bringing everybody up to date on a project I've been working on, which is at its basis, an economic development plan. Oh, it's kind of hard to see that, but you gotta dig down a little bit. We've got it very cleverly disguised. I am doing a festival that I hope takes off, and we do it every year. It is called Halloween. We are building it on the back, not of random vampires and werewolves, ghosties, but we're gonna take a different Mitchell County lore and legend every year and do a deep dive on it. And for our first year, we're doing Frankie and Charlie Silver. No, we're not doing anything without the silvers that are kind of the placeholders right now, approval. And I count myself among them, as I'm sure many of you do. Many of you are also related to that family. But I started looking around basically during COVID, how I could connect the dots of my life in a meaningful way. And I thought, don't make it a big reach, do things you like. Well, I like Halloween. And I love mysteries. And I was looking around at all the things we have lost as a county. I mean, we've lost furniture. We've lost, Christmas trees and apples as serious means of making a living. We've lost tobacco. We've lost textiles and furniture. And I thought to myself, what doesn't leave? What's not going to change? And that's our history and our culture. And that's what I'm building this on the back of. We have a county that was absolutely torn apart, first by a pandemic, and first by an election and then by a pandemic. And I thought, wouldn't it be sweet if everybody could agree on one stupid little innocuous thing like Halloween? That'd be a starting point. So here's what it's going to be. It's going to be 3 days. The first day is in Bakersfield. That's Thursday, the 27th. And we are partnering with the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, which is in Winston-Salem. And they are doing a projection on the historic courthouse that will be a retelling of the Frankie and Charlie Silver story. And it's important that you know we don't come down for or against either party. They were both wronged in their own rights. But, this is just gonna be a simple, cartoon retelling of the story. I've already seen the work. It's beautiful, it's artistic, it's funny. They're composing original music, play with it. And we're hoping that that night we can shut down the street, do a little street festival. We've got broom makers coming, we've got apple butter making again, and we're gonna do axe throwing. We've got people bringing axes for this park over here. And then we're gonna pick up everything and we're gonna move it the next night to Beulah Dean down at the Community Foundation down there. Already got that all worked out. But we're doing a different project down there. We're not ready to announce that quite yet. But then the next night, Saturday night, we had something planned and we just got the plug pulled on that by the School of the Arts. But the next night, Saturday night, we're in Spruce Vine Large. I have all the things going on down at Riverside Park. We hope also to do a lantern float in the river. A stationary lantern float. And we hope the kids from the schools will decorate our lanterns. And we're lighting the bridge. The School of the Arts is doing a big lighting project for us there. And the surrounding areas, we'll take whatever we get. And there again, we'll have axe throwing, we'll have pumpkin carving. To open the night's ceremonies every night, I've got a big band. You can look them up. Their name is called Albanac, ALBANNACH.
Spell it again.
Albanac, ALBANNACH. You can look at them on YouTube. You'll get a sense of what they're doing. I thought it was a perfect fit for us rather tribal mountain people. This is a group that is from Scotland and has performed at Grandfather Mountain and several other areas, and will have a following. And they're going to open up the festivities every night. We're doing a couple of ancillary things. We're doing a countywide scavenger hunt, and we've got clever little things with that will get people in our various businesses all over the county, from Griffith's store to the Orchard at Alphax. And we've got, the only alcohol we've got is we're doing a pub crawl. And I'm sorry that she left, because I need them. I need Sheila to help me out with that in case there's bad weather. For 12 people or however many the bus will hold. We're doing that one evening in Spruce Vine. Shortest pub crawl ever, by the way. And anyway, that's what I'm doing. That's it. We hope to just do a really pretty event that is not offensive to anyone this year, to build our support. We're not even particularly marketing huge, because we know Albanac has a following, and we will be hitting some people over in Tennessee for coming over. But this year we want to learn. We want to see what works, what doesn't, what's popular. We've got 3,000 things planned, and I've got about 40 different Mitchell County historical legends, if you will, that I can place in coming years. Let's hope I live that long. And I just want you all to I want you to know about this. And I've been working with Harley pretty much since day one, actually. And I want volunteers. So we're releasing our website on the 15th, and maybe before you'll see it. Take a look at it and give us a call and tell us who wants to sign up for what. That's it.
Have you spoke with Bruce Acker to do like a community close-up?
I haven't spoken with him for that purpose, but I am doing a live feed with him. So now I have got lots of other things we have worked on. We have done a quilt square. You see the axes, you see the mountains, you see the 3 graves.
Gina, each night, I know you told us before, but I don't know if it's changed since. What time does each of these events start on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday?
They all start at 6:30 because that's where it is anticipated that is dark time.
Are there any trips to the Frank and Johnny site over on 80 in this?
What we're gonna do is we have lit it with just some basic lights, and we are going to have established daytime hours with a volunteer there to let people in and out of the church. Because if you just go and look at the grave, that's one thing, but you get far more embedded when you look inside that church and you find your name on that family tree, as I have done. And, you know, we've got a whole bunch of other things here. We are getting ready to roll out. You may know. We are changing some of this. Our tagline for t-shirts is gonna be, that says terrifying you since 1831. We're gonna go a little softer on that and say, keeping spouses on their toes since 1831. So I think that we're gonna soften that a little bit and maybe some of those designs as well. But those are examples of t-shirts and posters that you're gonna be seeing. And like I say, this year it's an easy sale. It's very low key, but we hope we'll see you out there.
Is there a charge to get into the? Completely free, man. We're here in Michigan.
Thank you.
This year.
I got you.
We'll see about next year. We're working on funding. We've got a 5-year plan, and that's for a 5-year business plan as well. So
Thank you for putting all this time and getting to these, because I know it takes a lot of time.
that's fine.
It's good.
I mean, you elaborate a little bit about the amount of time when you started on this, and I know early spring, there was a crew of people brought in. You know, I'd like you to give the commissioners as well as the public that's live streaming a little bit more information, so they can actually see how much work and the process that's gone into this, with you being the leading lady and the lead factor in bringing all this to making it happen.
Yeah, I'm the booger in chief. That's the way we refer to
And I
it.
know you love how.
Oh, I do. I absolutely do. But back in December, I brought in a group of 7 people from, we call them Disney. They all were former Disney employees that walked out and started their own business right outside the gates there in Pasadena. A group of Disney consultants here, and we toured the county for a week. We did deep dives on a lot of our legends. We went back to the School of the Arts and did a charrette with their graduate students, so we could flesh out some of these ideas and get a kind of a skeleton of year one, what year one would look like, and it's going to look very different in year 2 and so forth. And we hope we'll catch momentum and pick up steam, and a lot of people will join in. It doesn't work if it's not a joint effort. But, and we hope that in years coming up, maybe the churches will host a harvest fair where the best apple pie with the blue ribbon and the best pumpkin pie, Aunt Bee's pickles and all that. But we look at growing it. We've got such a large footprint, and we had to pare it down. And this year it really doesn't look anything like what it's going to be like in future years, we hope. But also remember all the years growing up, there was a big Halloween carnival at the Harris Elementary School, Harris High School, it was for us. And I'm kind of trying to replicate some of that. And, you know, we're going to have a lot of people here from the leaf lookers, and what we can tell, leaf looking season's about a week later than it has been being. And we think we're still going to capture a lot of people here. And already there's nowhere to rent a house or a room. Sure, Dr. Boyd can tell you he's slammed at the hotel for the month of October, probably. So But we are looking, we're looking big. Why not?
I remember sitting, talking with you over lunch one day about this.
Yeah, it's
And
been 2 years
That's been like
coming.
almost 2 years ago.
It was, but you know, it was kind of born out of COVID. It was born out of a way to say, well, let's see, I work with the School of the Arts and I worked in show business and now I'm here. How can I use those talents in my own community? So here's the interesting thing. When I presented this to the School of the Arts, they had totally jumped on the bandwagon. One, because all the kids love to do Halloween projects, but two, they're folding it into their curriculum in a significant way because they discovered during COVID how many theaters were closed. The largest hiring body of entertainment professionals in the world is Cirque du Soleil, and they just pulled up their shutters and declared bankruptcy. And the people down there said, you know, all of our kids that are graduating, they're not always going to work on Broadway. They're not always going to be on a film set or at a studio. But by golly, they need to know that they have got skills that their own communities can benefit from. So here we have it. They jumped absolutely all over this and are very excited. They're offering us more things than we're asking for. Well, just in good time, just in good times. But they've been wonderful partners.
I mean, you got Finland up there, you got the Smithmore Castle, all that. I mean, you can kind of roll this. I could see your next 5 years of how you.
I've already talked to Smith Moore. Of course, Penland has been a great partner from the beginning. And they're helping us in lots of ways. I can't begin to enumerate. And they've been really good for volunteers as well. But part of what I also wanted to do was, is I wanted a larger presence for the School of the Arts outside of Winston-Salem. Because a lot of people here don't know about them. That doesn't mean we don't have talented people here. That just means I'm taking these children that are coming up and working here to the high school. I'm taking them to the drama clubs. I'm bringing the drama clubs and the bands and the things in like that. And they're going to quiz them. The School of the Arts is the only school that offers a master's degree in sound design. So I want our kids to know about these possibilities that exist in their own home state. So, and they're all just goofy about the Frankie and Charlie story. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's been a 2-year process, but we're almost there. Just support us in other ways. Just come see us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Next item on the agenda tonight, we actually have changed to 9D to substance abuse task force. Got emails backwards there. They're actually not going to be here till the 20th of September. So I'll take that one and we'll add that to the agenda for the second meeting of the month. So that moves on down to E. Mr. Dustin, for Vital Healthcare.
Thank you. So, good evening. I think Brandon, I sent him the materials late, so hopefully it made the packet. Not sure, but basically, as you guys know, every 3 months we try to go around and update our counties on kind of what's going on with life. And really what's going on with the state, because we know that, there's nothing but really constant change throughout. And, one of the things we're going to talk about today is really the current challenges, just so your awareness is there, because you're probably going to hear about scenarios where I think it's good to kind of be in. So, as you know, the first thing that is no stranger to any particular subgroup is staffing. So we know that anywhere you look, there are staffing issues, and that's no different in healthcare. There's a lot of factors, since the pandemic, I think a lot of professionals have left the profession. We've had a lot of health plans come into the state, whether it be standard plans, which bring commercial plans. And so those employees that were providing services are now working and managing the services. And so it leaves these providers in our community with vacancy. And so, one of the things that VI is really trying to do is we're working with a provider network, and we continue to try to build our provider network and offering all different kinds of ways and having conversations of how can we support our providers to be able to be staffed enough so that they can provide a service that's needed. And so with that, here's some of the things that we've done. As you may have heard of a walk-in crisis center, or really not even a crisis center, but so all of our 31 counties have a walk-in center where an individual would not have to have an appointment to go into, sort of like RHA for this particular county. So you can go in during business hours, no appointment, and really be seen for an assessment. And then obviously after hours, there's mobile crosses, things like that. And then we're also offering some things like first responder iPad pilots in some of our counties where community paramedics or law enforcement may have an iPad that's basically the law enforcement officers can take with them on an encounter. They see somebody and they can push a button that this person is willing. They can kind of get face to face real time with mobile crisis and determine what they should do versus going straight to the ED. So we're trying to keep our EDs a little bit less full from crisis, people like that. So we're increasing our outpatient rates for our walk-in center. We are actually increasing all of our rates across all of our service areas to help providers be able to recruit and have some retention with the employees that they actually have. So obviously it's a really competitive market right now. And for everybody to kind of be in a more level playing field with the health plans, we've got to assist our providers of being able to pay more really competitive salaries. And so part of what we're doing is we're working with those particular groups and trying to see how we can help, how we can really offer support.
Justin, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
They're doing our DSS board meeting. There was a question asked about reimbursement rates for therapeutic foster care. And trying to recruit some of those folks inside Mitchell County. And everybody deferred to you.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's part of what I'll go ahead and talk about. It's okay. So let me kind of start by saying, you guys know, not too long ago, I was here talking about the Child and Family Specialty Plan, which used to be called the Foster Care Waiver, which is basically the state carving out the waiver from Tailored Plan and sticking these foster care population in this sub waiver by itself. And what we said is, VIA stance, and I think we've asked all of our 31 DSS is that we would prefer it be regional versus the one statewide vendor trying to manage all 100 counties. And we also said, we really think this is rolling out too quick. There's no way that LMNCO could basically bid on this. And we know the state kind of thinks we're going to all get together and do it. So as a result of that, I think it did get pushed back. So I guess that's an update. And then also VIA, along with other LME have came together and developed a Child and Family Improvement Initiative. And so it's really a collaboration as we went and we talked to all of our DSSs in our 31 counties, as to the other LME and we said, listen, what are the challenges? What is it that you need or you think you need? And even the people that's on the fence for a statewide vendor, what do you think you need to make that transition? And so, we got great feedback. Part of that is seamless transition of care. So if you got a kid on a border county like Burke County or McDowell, and those two are called border counties because there's two LMNCOs that kind of touch. So if you've got a kid going across county lines, there's a little bit of a delay in transition of care, which is a Medicaid county. And so that can disrupt service. So what we're saying is all LMNCOs have agreed everything seamless. There's we need to disruption of care. We know that kids and DSS have a challenge when they're trying to find placement and let's say they're looking at 20 different providers. They have to fill out 20 separate applications. And these applications are not short. And so what we have asked all LME and COs to agree on, we hold the contracts, is that a provider must accept the universal application. So now we're gonna try to get it electronic. They fill out one application. It goes to every provider they want to apply for that particular kid. And so those are just some of the things I think we're trying to do to really support DSS, really, continue to develop our respite facilities for kids, because we know when a kid comes into DSS custody and they don't have a place to go, that's a challenge. They sometimes end up on a DSS couch, and so they can call us. If there's a recommended level of care or an assessment already, we've got a 2-hour process 24/7 that we're going to try to find a place for this kid to go overnight. We know DSS officer is not that. Also trying to eliminate an out-of-network agreement. And what that would be is, for example, we got a Mitchell County kid living in Wilmington. And so they have via Medicaid, because they're in our 31 counties, but they're receiving a service and they need an additional service for safe and behavioral health therapy. What would usually happen if that provider is not contracted with us, they would have to call us and get it's a single case agreement contract. And the paperwork's pretty hefty. It takes a few days for us to turn it around. And so what we've asked is we're trying to eliminate that. So no more of those out-of-network agreements. We're basically in network with everybody. The other thing that we're doing is we're embedded care managers across our 31 counties and DSS office. So Mitchell County has Rhett Crummey, a care manager that comes by every Friday. He sits in the staffing. He provides support. Even kids that's not by, he'll say, this is what his clinical expertise is. This is how we can navigate the system. Because it's a very complicated system for both families and stakeholders. But we're eventually making sure that we're getting embedded care managers on all 31. What Mr. Pittman was talking about in therapeutic foster care is one of the things that we have done is we have almost doubled the therapeutic foster care rate from $97 per day to $175 a day. The reason we did this, aside from helping providers with recruitment and retention, is because we know that if we can keep kids in family settings closer to home, it's going to have better outcomes than if a kid has to go 3 hours to make a county, for example. In a setting that is not really family oriented, it's more like an institution. And so we're trying to put more wraparound, more support, incentivize our providers to keep a little tougher kids that usually they might just say, I can't take this kid no more. So we're putting more support and more money with it to try to help that situation. Any questions on that?
Who licensed therapy? What provider licensed therapy foster parents, in Mitchell County? I know,
What provider license them?
yes.
I don't know the actual provider in Mitchell. I know it's a process and VIA is included in that. And so if you think about therapy foster care in general, we've heard forever in Mitchell County that we need more therapy foster care families. And we know that, but the challenge is you need families to be willing to do it in Mitchell County. So we can help them, get through the process. It's a matter of, finding those things. Any other questions? I'll be on my last topic. Or you can ask me afterwards. And so the last piece is the opioid settlement funds. You guys, I'm sure, have heard a lot about this. There's a lot of conversation all across the state. And just to kind of give you, where VIA stance is, obviously there's two options the state presents. One's more of a treatment model, one's more like a prevention model. And so every county is kind of looking at this. Every county that we're working with is a little different as far as, how far along they are. Caldwell County, for example, was in a meeting there on Friday. You guys know the county manager there, Junior Duncan, the Mitchell County guy. And, they're pretty far along. And, McDowell County, for example, they're in the process of, similar to the substance abuse task force that was on the agenda, I thought. So they're trying to get together and make recommendations to commissioners, like, this is what we think, if we've had community input, stakeholder input, this is what we think we should do, or how we should use money. And, what Body's offered, our chief medical officer, Dr. Zen, has went out to some of our counties and said, this is how this really looks. From a legal perspective, from a medical model, things like that. I know MATs are really strong recommendation from a lot of the counties. And so, off of that, you guys, if you have any interest in that, I think at the end of the day, what we want to make sure of is that counties aren't developing or creating something with the funding that already exists that VIA pays for through federal funding. So we just want to be at the table for that. Just to kind of help support, help guide, and if you guys come up with recommendations, we say, yeah, this kind of models over here. This is how it funds, or that's a great idea. And the other good piece is we hear from all of our other counties, and so we can take other ideas that other counties have done and kind of share how those counties are doing. And so, yeah, that's my update. So,
That's a good idea.
yeah. Yeah, apologize.
No, that's good information.
Oh,
I'm working on a CPAC. But we don't have representation, so
okay,
I'm trying to find somebody to serve
yeah,
on a CPAC council.
awesome, that'll be good. The other thing, just to say, the first responder iPad pilot, we're trying to roll that out in all 31 counties eventually. It's up in Avery with Tiger right now, but at Daymark, we're trying to get RHA on board from a technology standpoint. We've already got the iPads, and then we've trained the law enforcement officers. So a lot of good things are happening with that. So, as you always know, if you need anything, any situation comes up, call me.
Appreciate this.
All
I've
right.
got one question.
Yes,
before
sir.
we go to this. We talked about this for months, it's therapeutic.
Foster care.
Yes. And how to keep the kids, like you said.
Yeah.
In the county, in the home. Does VIA currently work with any DSS agencies as far as recruiting? Or do you guys have a recruitment tool or anything of that nature where you could work with the DSS director to
Yeah,
promote that?
yeah, I think in some ways we do. Our provider network is really a part of that. I know Sean Block has got a lot of things he's trying to really do around that foster care youth population too. And so we're bringing Ashley Parks, who's our director of child and family and provider network. She's going to be at the table with me at that meeting. And I think that's something we can begin to talk about, because the reality is we've got providers that would be willing to even expand services, even in that way. But we would just need, again, people, and obviously good people, but to really want to do that, be motivated by doing that, things like that.
We were, just looking at the numbers, earlier in the night when we had our DSS board meeting, and out of our 31 children, 24 were placed out of the county.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that revolves around what we're talking about now.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you have a string line effect when that child's out of the county. One thing is, funding from the state of North Carolina for your public school system.
Yeah.
Which is, about $10,000.
Right. Well, we know it's hard to reunify a family with a kid if they're having
It
to drive
is.
2 or 3 hours away.
Your workers have a lot more work to do. The child is probably gonna have a harder time getting connected, making new friends, et cetera, versus being at home. So, I hope that's something that, in my time as commissioner, that, we're able to resolve or have some work in progress
Yeah.
to make this happen.
It is one of our top 9 initiatives that we're doing, and that's statewide. But again, it's just something that's a little bit challenging. I mean, we've known, this is a conversation that's happened for years, and you know, we're trying, I think. It's a priority, let's say that. So, very close.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Next item on the list tonight, we've got, public comments, Dr. Boyd.
I'll be brief. I just want to talk about two invitations. One is, the first one is next Wednesday night, the 14th, at from 5:30 to 7. We're doing an event with the chamber and Main Street at the planetarium. We're going to do a planetarium show, and we'd like to invite commissioners to come to that as well. And so we're trying to get each chamber out there and each commission, and so we're trying to get them at the same time. So that's 5:30 to 7 next week. Good show, and you know, we got a lot of people coming to these shows out there, so it's certainly been well received by the community and schools. The kids are really enjoying it. And so that's the first. The second one, of course, is the party. And I want to make sure that everybody got the invitations. Did you get one, Taylor? Good. And so the party is the 27th, that's Tuesday. That's the one. It's usually a good time because there'll be other commissioners there from the other two counties, a good fellowship on that. And you know, I baked a couple briskets for each. I'll smoke a turkey, I'll deep fry chickens, Betty do the fixins. He's already working on the coconut cake.
Who's coconut?
Yours.
Thank you.
Now, if anybody else wants coconut cake, yeah, that's Vern's cake to control, but she's making a bunch of pound cakes and stuff as well. So, but we do all the cooking for it. And this year being earlier like this, we'll put the tables up along the decks if the weather's good where you can kind of be outside. And so I'll have a corn pile out. Just don't bring your rifle. So anyway, I just want to make sure you all are invited and can come. It's always fun. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Moving on. Next item is a little pay transfer of property in Mitchell County and Town of Baker. I think county manager could do that.
Yes, sir. Got a letter from Chuck Vines and spoke with him, the mayor of Bakersfield, about, there is about 5/100ths of an acre sandwiched between pretty much all of the town of Bakersfield's land. And he was asking if we could deed that to him, and, you know, it's something that's really no use to us really, because it's more in line with what he needs and what he uses with what he has. I would propose that maybe the board take a look at deeding that to him with the idea that his attorney might cover all the legal costs and of doing the transaction, that it would be of no cost to the county. But it is right before you go under the road on the creek walk on the side of the or the Inline Hughes Funeral Home side of it. So in the agenda packet, there is a little map showing where that's at. But it is a very small piece of property. I do not know how we held on to that little bitty piece of property all these years. And we can't build a jail on it. So, you know, just FYI. About 5/100ths, I'll actually tell you exactly. Yeah, it's on the creek walk. I believe it's part of that FEMA original track. So right here, legal acreage is 0.05, and you can see the creek walk coming right before you go under the bridge. It would be right.
We have that from thing, and we need to check to make sure we can transfer that property. I don't know what the terms of that was. I wasn't here in 98.
Because the county, it transferred some of the FEMA acquired properties in the past, and then we have to go back and get them back.
Yeah, you need to legally,
So we could say it needs legal.
I think we need to investigate that, because I'm not sure. It might be okay, but we need to check the requirements on that, because they're very strict.
Title search. Title search. Okay.
Let's table
I remember tables.
Got a motion to table this one, and I would say add to that table, if you can follow up with Chuck on that, Alan, just to, one, probably do need to do a title search on that property, break it does, and then we can look on our end to see exactly who, how that was. leaked to us.
Is there any restrictions?
Any, you have a motion to table? Second, all in favor, vote for the usual sign. Next item on the list tonight is the Mitchell Yancey interlocal agreement. I think County Manager Fitz can discuss that.
Yes, so, there is a breach that would be in the landfill of the Mitchell Yancey, area down there. So we have timber that straddles the border. And so Yancey County is, looking to cut that timber to be able to repair that breach in the landfill. So, we surplus the timber, so now we can move forward with selling the timber. And so this, is an item related to getting the sale of the timber done properly. So there is a resolution that you all would need to, I'm trying to bring that up as we speak, that you all would need to pass in order to sell that timber to repair that breach, and any additional funds can be left in a fund to be used for maintenance to that landfill. So it's basically going into, a shared bi-county project. I want to make note, since I'm on live stream, about that timber. Should our board pass the resolution, the timber will be for sale to the highest bidder on the courthouse steps in Yancey County on October 25th. So if you are into cutting timber and making bids, I would recommend getting with me or Lynn Austin to line up a time to look at that property should we pass this resolution. October 25th at the courthouse steps. And I can give you more specific times on there. Lynn didn't tell me about the time. I guess that's pending as we get
The
closer.
resolution says 2 o'clock.
Okay, 2 o'clock on the resolution. Here we go.
Looks like we're on select cut too, not quick cut.
That would be my guess, like maybe 18 inches of press pipe. 16 inches. How big a track is that? I looked that up, but to tell you right offhand, it's probably, it's gonna be a good amount of money. I know it's multiple acres, I don't know, 40s or 50s, but could be more.
So are we looking for a motion for the resolution or for the agreement? So moved.
Second. All in favor, vote for the usual sign. Motion carries. And then next, is item C, the resolution, which County Board of Commissioners authorizing the sale of timber by public auction. So, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, vote for the usual sign. Motion carries. Next item on the list this evening is a resolution to levy a 3% occupancy tax construction of the Mitchell County Tourism Development Authority. And I think that one is going to be County Manager, have you got any?
You know,
I've got the resolution here in front of me.
I built that resolution to approve the 3% occupancy tax. We did a public hearing prior meeting. And the occupancy tax is the same as it always has been, but since we have a new bill, which includes a TDA, we have to levy the tax again for the same amount. So the 3% occupancy tax is the same amount of tax, for the record, just to be straight on that. It does allow for Dr. Boyd's Blue Ridge Boutique Hotel now to pay occupancy tax legally. Then the other component of that, which is included in this resolution, is the formation of a tourism development authority, of which the bill requires. And the Tourism Development Authority in this resolution has some basic framework in order for us to build a TDA, which will be an 8-person board selected by the commission board, chair appointed by the commission board. I've laid out pretty much everything in that framework as it relates and ties directly to the bill. So that is for your review and to vote on or ask questions, and I'll entertain those from the perspective of compiling that TDA information.
When this resolution is passed, how quick will it be till we start working on forming this?
I would say the next commission board meeting, I would like for y'all to have me 8 names. And so it would be the board
You're pretty
meeting
quick.
on September 20th if I have my way.
Okay,
So this week, we just send you names of people and then you send them out to all of us.
Yeah. I'll do that.
Are you looking for a motion on this resolution tonight?
Yes, I'd like to have a resolution that we adopt the levy or levy the 3% tax and adopt the TDA resolution.
So move.
Second. All in favor, vote for the usual sign. Motion carries.
The date for implementation, I think you said 45 days.
So for the tax, after we levy a new tax, it is a 45-day, and I'll double check that. I have that written down at my desk as to how long before we have to implement it. So on yours, you have enough time to get your point of sale, and any reservations made prior to the implementation would be still kept at.
But we could start it sooner than 45 days. We don't have to wait.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll email you that. I'll put that on my to-do list to email you the exact time that
Okay.
the government requires that levy.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions on that? Hearing none, next item on the list is Public Transportation Program Resolution.
Just what she was.
Sheila has already kind of went through that for us earlier, so we just need to vote to approve the Public Transportation Program Resolution. So second, all in favor, vote the usual sign, motion carries. Next on the list tonight, we got Mr. Blair Tyler for the late applications for property tax rate.
Okay, we've got 5 folks that qualified under the rules as they were in place for this calendar year. They did submitted late applications and you all can approve. And your recommendation is all come through your desk? I've already looked at them. They do qualify, and we probably have 5 or 6 that did. It's submitted applications.
are one of those managers,
Pardon me?
are one of those 5 managers?
No,
No.
this is on the late application for the property relief tax.
I'm on the wrong
You're
side.
not student.
This is just the late, this is the late applications. Yeah, I got you. I have a motion, we accept these late applications. So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor, vote the usual sign. Motion carried. Next on the list tonight is the property tax penalties being removed.
Okay, these are 2 discoveries that by law are prescribed penalty. One involves an industry that was audited for compliance, their business personal property assets, and the other was a taxpayer that had taken advantage of property tax relief and then apparently had gone back to work and not notified us. So they're asking the board to consider compromising the penalty.
I'm not in favor of that, so I don't know how I feel, but
I don't think.
Nope, we're out here trying to. Keep them out of shut. We're trying to get back, late taxes paid, and they're wanting us to give them something they cheap. So they can pay.
Sorry, I agree. Item number 8 this evening is resolution delegate refund authority for overpayments of the excise tax. And Commissioner, County Energy.
So, talking to register of deeds, and what we have is on a rare occasion, an excise tax will have an overpayment, and then you can speak to me a little bit to this from the attorney perspective of it, coming in as a novice. But there is a process that we can locally adjudicate that and set that overpayment up, and as I spoke with the register of deeds, if we are able to get that passed and motioned by the board, then we're gonna be able to take that and do it local adjudication on an overpayment and get that excise tax overpayment fixed on this level, which will save approximately 2 to 3 months of it going through the channels and up the chain and waiting and the process that goes into that. So that's what that is related to. It's a resolution is attached in there, which you can look at. That was yeah, it is
I looked at it.
Sorry.
It's a long one.
so yeah, it's got some general statutes at play and everything into that, but basically, if I give you the short and long of it as I got it from the register of deeds, it's just giving us a little bit more local authority to where the county manager and county finance officer are authorized to grant requests to refund overpayments of excise tax paid in accordance with the general statute 10522.37, and if y'all adopt that, that lets Mavis and myself be able to work on behalf on a rare occasion. I think we had one this about a month ago, and it's going through a longer process. Whereas if we pass this, it makes it at more to our adjudication level.
I have a motion that we approve this resolution. Okay, no, it's long. It's a-
And it's very, very rare that you ever have one of these. Honestly, I hadn't even remembered one during my senior year. It's just very rare that there's an error made that you would ever have to give back any excise tax. And you know, excise tax, a portion of that goes to the state. We only keep a portion of it. So it was a process to get that money back from the state if there was an error made. It's a long process. And the board would have to have approved it before they could even go through that process. Now it's making it a little bit simpler if that happens, but honestly, it's a rarity.
Looking for a motion for this resolution. Second.
Second.
All in favor, vote the usual sign. Motion carries. Next item on the list this evening is the grant project ordinance. Mr. County Representative, Ms. Mavis is going to talk about it.
Okay, as you know, we got the $2 million funding for the New Mitchell County Rec Center. And the funds are going to operate pretty much the same as our sheriff's department funded from the state, the $5 million. So what we're required to do is, it wasn't in their original budget because we weren't granted the money when we did the budget back in the spring. So it will have to be added to the budget, and this is going to be a grant project ordinance that the board will need to approve for the $2 million. So the first thing I need to ask is if you'll approve the grant ordinance, and this will be followed up shortly by a budget amendment once the money comes in, and I will set the accounts up for this project. You will see it also in a budget amendment, but because it wasn't in our original budget ordinance, we have to do a separate budget ordinance for this.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Second.
Let me take notes on these. I have to take one minute, sorry. Where's Steve go?
You're in charge, right?
You're in
Oh,
charge.
okay, I was like, no, he's not there. All right, then.
To take a vote, we had a
We got a vote in a second.
But you-
I made the motion, he seconded.
Right, everybody vote in favor. And then on to item J.
The second part of this is, just like with the sheriff's department, we're required to segregate these funds from any other funds that we're holding. So we have went ahead and set up a bank account for these funds to be deposited into. Once we get the funds, we have done the paperwork for these funds. We have worked on the scope of work. We've sent it in. We've done all the legal paperwork and sent it to them. Once it's all approved, then we will get our money. And it should be very shortly because they have a very short window to turn that money around. So as soon as they sign off that all of our documents are in and signed, and we just did that last week. So I would expect in the next 10 days or so, we'll probably have our money. So we went ahead and have the account open and ready to house that money because we did have to keep it separate and we have to account for the interest on this project. So I need, as always, anytime we open or close a bank account, the board needs to approve it and be informed of it. So I ask for your approval for the new bank account for the Mitchell County Rec Department funds.
So moved. All in favor, vote for the usual sign.
Steve, I'm ready, you were gone.
Well, the nature fell quickly. That was for the new bank account.
We just did that one.
Gotcha.
We're okay.
Next item on the list, needs-based public school capital fund.
Okay. And if you remember a couple months ago, we just approved the one for $32 million, accepting the 32 million. They've now got the additional 8 million that came in July. So the paperwork is here. And their board chair has signed it saying that they're accepting the now new amount of $40 million. So our board needs to approve that we understand that the amount is now $40 million. So that can get changed on the lottery funding for the new school.
Maybe I have a quick question before we go on.
Okay,
How much have they spent out of that whole total 40?
1.7 million, 1.707,342.61 today.
You said number again, Max?
1,407,342.61. So all this is though, is acknowledging that you now have $40 million.
And we have to approve this so they can get the $40 million.
You need to sign this and send it in. We'll send this back to, Beth tomorrow and she'll send this in, to the education lottery folks so they can update their records showing that we now understand they granted us $40 million. That's basically all that is.
Motion to approve. So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor, vote for the usual sign. Motion carries. Now, I need to sign this one right here. The one I've got.
I've got it. She's got them all for you to sign. You just need to stay after
Yes,
school.
ma'am.
and
Yes, ma'am.
sign.
I've had to do that before, so. No problem. Next,
Now with the L.
is the needs-based public school capital fund distribution.
Okay, with this funding of $40 million, every time that the school, wants money out of this lottery pot of money, they have to send us a request. Their board has to approve it and we have to approve it. And then I will write them a check out of the lottery funds. Now, the way that works is they have been, since this project started back in, I think, 2018 originally, they of course have been paying the bills and then periodically send us copies of the bills and ask for reimbursement from the lottery funds. This is the fourth request that we've received since 2018. I did double check it. We went back and forth a little bit on some numbers last week. I do feel confident, and I did ask Beth to do a spreadsheet because this is a multiple year project. And we need to be able to be sure that her records are correct and they match our records. We need copies of all of this, they need copies of all of this. With that being said, there is a little information on this spreadsheet in the fact that in the beginning, when we first got the 15 million, some of you will remember we had a county match. That match went away when we went to the 32 million. So even though it shows that the school made some payments on this and the county made some payments on that, actually that money did not come directly from the school or the county. It actually come from their capital sales tax money. They did, show that they took some money in the beginning. Which makes, and that's gonna follow this all the way through because you can't go back and eradicate what they did back in 18 and 19 and when we did have a match. So it's a little bit confusing in that we did not put any money into that. It was all their money.
So we know that what's showing on the spreadsheet where it says local match.
Right. We didn't actually
Okay.
give them any money. They took it from their sales tax. And again, if you look at it showing like they spent 1.5 million, but actually all they used out of their lottery is this number right here at the bottom, this 1.4. So this is what we're going to minus from the 40 million. In other words, we've got to track this 40 million. I have to put it into their core banking system, write a check out of their lottery account, which once we send this other paper in, they'll raise it to 40. It's 32 now. They'll raise it to 40. And then I will double check when I write this check and make sure that I stay in balance with them. In other words, I'm having to balance it, send the money to Beth. She's going to have to reimburse the school for what she spent out, and then she's going to have to stay in balance. So it's going to be a long process. And she and I have had long conversations about this because she'll probably be there through the end of this project. I may or may not be there through the end of this project. So I want to make sure that Alan and the rest of the folks in the finance office are aware of this process, and we all keep good paperwork on this process because this is a large amount of money that I would foresee being very audible. I think it'll be audited on their side. I think it's going to be audited on their side. So I want to make sure that just like our grants, we keep very good copies and records.
So I guess my question.
Okay.
Out of all of these invoices from all of these architect firms and all
I
of
have them.
okay, so none of these in these boxes are for that auxiliary gym.
It came out for $3,500 and you'll see
I
that
see
she's
the-
taking it out, and I've got the copy of that in here to show that we took that 3,500 out. Remember, that was the one that we called a few months ago when they submitted things.
Would you line out these, make sure they match with the invoice stuff.
We've added back and forth, and it's been a good day working on this. Alan and I and Beth did, trying to make sure that we're good and we understand. And unfortunately, to Beth's behalf, again, she's come in just now on this. Her predecessor had done it for 2 or 3 years, so she had to go back and try to reconcile everything too. And so it's really helped her and us to be able to build this, and she's going to continue this throughout this project, no matter how long it takes. So, and I already got a book started on this. You can come in my office at any time and look at it. And you'll see the 3 checks that I've written so far. We have copies of those. And then we'll have this one. So if that, I just want you to know kind of how this works.
So, some of this I know maybe circle back, I'm sorry. But some of this come out of their Article 44 money, correct? Some of the stuff that we approved and
Not this.
all come out of grants.
This is going to be all school grant. That's separate.
Okay.
The Article 44 money is for other capital needs or other things that they need in their sales tax money, that's other capital needs that they come and ask for in the past, that I think you might be thinking about. Yeah, this is only, this 40 million can only be used on the school project.
So nothing for the school project that's come out of any other pot other than. this.
No, not except for early on, when they spent those two original, the 119,438 and the 15,426. When we had a match in the very, very beginning, they took that money out of their sales tax capital to make the match. They never really asked the county for that match. They took it out of their capital match.
So I have a question for board members before me. Do you guys know what all of it, I mean, is this just for drawings? Like from before 2022? Is it just drawings? Is it just-
I can give you a copy. I just didn't want to copy these if you didn't want to look at them. But if you go back to the very beginning, say 2018, you've got architectural services from different designers and from Cook Engineering and from Coke. And I think from what and you've got topography surveys and something else, I can't pronounce that word, from an Ed Holmes and Associates. And I'm assuming from what I'm hearing from other people, that when they were looking at different pieces of land to put this school, they had to go through the process of evaluating those sites. I think they even did several drawings. I remember 2 or 3 different drawings. in the past.
Remember there had 3, we were in the
Three.
parking lot, and then the green property, or
Okay.
Garland property, and then.
So all this money has been spent on anything that they've done in relationship to this project. Evaluating the 3 sites, doing 3 different drawings, however many they've done, this is where this money's went.
I've got a question. And it goes back to the auxiliary gym cost. Because I just thought of that. Is the $3,500 for a design Coke?
Yeah, it was on their quote bill.
And did we get billed?
They paid that out of their capital funds that they were holding.
But that was for the drawing
It was,
versus a 4 real samples.
see, I don't know, it was the Kessel Engineering Group.
Kessler would have probably done the core real.
Okay, it just says Mitchell County High School Auxiliary Gym.
Yep.
And it was professional services,
It was on 6.
and it was geotech, it was geotech.
Okay, so we paid Kessler Engineering on 6/20.
Actually, they billed Coke. And it was on Coke's bill of 323.22. If you remember, Coke's bill that they submitted was 11,500 for, I guess the school, and then they attached secondly, the auxiliary gym invoice for $3,500. They had 2 invoices from Kessler.
Let me ask you this. Because Kessler Engineering sent a bill for 2019 for $7,800.
Okay, hold on just a second, let me find that one.
Invoice 4775,
Wait a minute, how much was it?
7,800.
Hold on. Okay, and it was actually, this goes back to when apparently they were talking about Agnon to Greenleaf Primary School for a grade. They'll talk about, they're doing like a 5 through 8 or something.
Now they were doing the plan, the second plan, the $23 million plan was a 5-8 school on the Garland property, which they purchased.
So see, this is actually saying, this is whatever they were doing, whether it was geotech or whatever, on the Greenleaf Primary
Okay, the Greenleaf-
School addition.
The Greenleaf property, the second plan, because we all sat in on that meeting, commissioners, architects, Board of Education. First plan they presented was to put it at the student parking lot. second plan was to put it on the Garland property, make that a 5/8 school, add more classrooms to Greenlee to make Greenlee a K4 school. And that's when we all met, and it's a $23 million project, recovery. And then the third plan, or the third set of drawings made is for the Mall Green property, which is now a 40 whatever $1 million process, but I guess I was just asking,
So all
Probably the
those
careful-
processes, yeah,
probably that one was for $7,800. But then at some point in time, we got billed and we may have turned it down. Didn't we get billed for the core sample engineering on the Garland?
Yeah.
And auxiliary and Carly on it,
So I guess I'm asking,
this is on
is the
Garland.
$3,500 that they took off here? Is that the core drilling price that they taken off? Or is that the design price for the auxiliary gym? Because there's a whole design for the auxiliary gym.
I thought it was core, but, and that's just recollection.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
it's cool. Mhm.
Because we paid for a set of plans and the core.
So have you paid for a set of plans for a drawing of an auxiliary gym?
If we have, it's not itemized on these invoices, that's all I can say.
Just ask,
I don't know.
clarification.
See, the project, there are putting the project number and name on these code invoices. So I think we're good from looking at these, you know. Because when we post invoices and it's somewhere else, they label it. In other words, like one will say 3-8 middle school, and then one said auxiliary gym, and then the other one says the Greenlee addition. You know, it appears that they're denoting which project on these invoices, so they're easily recognizable. That's all we can go by.
Thank you, madam.
That's all I can go by, it's what they see.
Yeah, move.
I so moved.
Second. This is moved to basically for this distribution request. So I got a motion, I got a second.
Well,
It basically will allow me to sign this,
So they can get the 40 million.
yeah, this is the 40 million, yeah.
second,
All in favor, vote for the usual sign. Motion carries.
So the second request is for us to reimburse them from their lottery money. What they're asking for on this is $580,028.98. So you're doing two different things. You approved the 40 million, but you're also approving their reimbursement request.
That's out of their own.
That's out of the 40 million.
That's
So
what we
it's
just voted on. wasn't it?
Yeah.
What we just-
I was making sure we're clear, those two things. Okay, thanks.
Next item on the agenda is the county attorney contract. We can talk about it.
Yeah, I'll talk to that. We were talking a little bit, having some discussion on that, and our discussion was more leaning towards a DSS board that has commission based, not an independent DSS board. It creates a ethical potential of having to represent two boards. Polled the board to say, you know, and we also looked at the state level, and I forwarded that to the Commissioner Hardy, wanted to get that from the state, and I may have given it to other commissioners, but I made sure to give that to him. And as we are looking at everything related to that, I've got a contract from Eggers on the agenda here to work for Mitchell County Attorney as Dean Grindstaff is coming out. So that's going to need you all to make a vote to accept that contract. Should the board accept that contract, Eggers would be retained upon signing the contract with questions, but he would need to make arrangements for his Sugar Mountain town meeting, have that changed around a little bit more, so he would actually be present at the first board meeting. Should the board adopt the contract for Eggers at, a point in the future, we'll have to have, Dean also, go through the proper process of us also bringing him to step away from the job, so a withdrawal on that, so we're trying to get Dean squared away on everything, and it's up for the pleasure of the board.
Thank you. I know you announced your intent to roll, and thank you. That was back in July, and so thank you for seeing us through all this. I appreciate that.
We certainly will. At some point, we need to, in all of this, we need to figure out the closure time. And this new contract, we all want to continue. We want to closures, and it's slow to deal with those.
Do we need a motion for that if we want them to do that?
I would be fine with that. I think we would need, I'd like to have three, at least a consensus of three commissioners to move forward on that.
We'll move forward with Eggers' contract and keep that option open.
Personally, I would say, and I'm willing to make the motion for the board. I believe we just let Dean continue the foreclosure. He's got familiarity, his office is set up for it.
They're rolling,
They're rolling with it.
AOA.
so.
What?
Akers, he didn't really express a lot of interest either.
I don't, he was either way, whatever the pleasure of the board was.
Seems, I mean, it just seems like to me that it's working pretty well with Dean doing it, and, it seems weird. to keep talking about it. I'm here, seems like it's working pretty well, it might save us some money to have a local guy do it versus getting them ground back.
So I guess the first.
So I'll put that in form of motion. We continue to let Dean's office the next year handle the foreclosures, and if the board chooses to rediscuss that next year, whatever. So I'll make a motion, we allow Dean Grindstaff's office to continue with foreclosure.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification, this, Dean, get your office will bill us at your current rate, we'll keep costs down on that.
All in favor, vote for the usual sign.
I make a motion, we move more on April.
And second that. All in favor, vote for the usual sign. I think we covered it. Next item on the list to see is the Catawba Valley Engineering Contract Core Deal. And we need to vote to sign the geotech contract support bill. This is part of the
Mitchell, recreational complex.
Yeah.
We're just vetting out the two sites, and so we'll core drilling on an alternate site. They'll do 10 test holes, I think it is, on this contract, just basic, requirements that we need to build.
Yeah.
There's an alternate site, so we're looking at, the traditional plan had a site kind of near the back corner of the tax office back in that area where old trailer used to be. There is a chance that if the costs get very high on site prep and filling in with proper compacted dirt, that it may be more affordable to locate that building where the old 911 center was once located, if the geotech shows. So
My understanding is basically, potential, you have potential to have to raise it up because it's over there and that, the original site versus here, you've already got all your hookups, electrical power, and you may not have to build it up to, but
But didn't we also discuss, we're looking for that as law enforcement, center that was supposed to be built up 4 feet?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So in relation to that, it's,
My concern is we've got rid of the congested area. Now we're really getting.
And is,
So-
and is
You
that
put it- you
site
put it-
gonna, is that site gonna hold everything we talked about?
so Lloyd Heiss and myself and Brock and Stan, looked at that site and we measured that site out. That site goes back into the current impoundment block. So it will go, it will fit in that area. It is, we'll probably, talking to the driller, his assumption, not based on anything till we drill, would be that that site might save us about $500,000 as opposed to the most recent core samplings, which had us down at bedrock at about 3 foot on one end and maybe on an average of 8 to 12 on the other end. The problem was that there was silt layered right against the bedrock. So we'll have to dig down to the bedrock, pull that off, put gravel so water can flow, and then compact to bring that up to par. The cost on that will be up there depending on how far it takes to haul our compact and the gravel and the site prep. But now there is another thing at play. If we did move that site there, and we were looking at cost effectiveness, we're also weighing out the grant. The grant may not permit us, we may have to go with that site, but we're wanting to vet that out. It's a small price to pay to do a few geotech drillings for Plan B.
We're not locking ourselves.
We're not locking ourselves into that. No, it's more of a test and it's just kind of saying if that gets to where that site's limiting over there, we got an option. Plus it moves us off the floodway. We might can get a full field in with the fence and have less restrictions if we can back our fields off the floodway. And if we do not use that site where we're at bedrock at 3 feet, there's a good chance we can amend that field to where it's perfectly flat. We can build fences to where we won't be in the floodway. So there's a lot of factors at play.
So with option number 2 over here, though, we would still be doing like the fields and the other stuff, right?
That is correct. Everything on that plan is going to be the same. It's just the buildings moved.
All the fields, splash pad, the whole
Whole
gamut
nine
is on.
And
It's fit over here.
we still got an apartment.
I mean,
Yes.
Well, it's gonna be a nightmare.
But the rec center just here, and then over here, we would still do the fields.
That's right.
So that's option number 2.
Option number 2 is you make the approximately 80-foot wide by 120-foot recreational complex from the impound lot to about halfway where the old 911 trailer was. That's where it would end. You would have some increased parking there. We would look, if it became a site, we would have, and we got Stan working on a basic layout of that and see what it looks like. So we're just wanting to weigh out everything in the planning.
so we'd still possibly, if we had to put option 2, we'd still possibly utilize the Levy Ledford property for the fields. and
Oh,
all
yes,
that.
And the
everything.
path, the
Yeah,
walking
walking
path.
path, splash pad, all that would still be in
Whatever
Levy
you
Ledford.
want to go there.
We could put a little more on the Levy Ledford.
I thought, that's where I thought you were saying all of it.
No.
I was like, there is no.
Sorry, yeah. Like, no, I'm explaining to you.
And I agree with the plans personally, I kind of agree with Jim on, I think the gym would seem kind of out of place, like.
Well, I'm wondering how you would, if you decided you wanted to leave the gym and then go take your kids to the splash pad or go down, walk the track. What do you do? Walk down the side of the bank back there?
You're gonna have to park your cars over here, so
So-
you can't park your cars back here.
And Lloyd was talking about, we're gonna have the driveway would come in the same way it did. And it would be basically along behind the area of the transportation and the tax office and sheriff's department, leaving the same amount of room they had, just a road. And then it curves and L's in behind that. So it still has the same amount of access to a degree. Like I said, this is more of just a plan B and the ability to start thinking outside the box on what our best options are.
I got a better idea.
So
let's build the big gym and the little gym. Let's build two.
Well, I was thinking he's gonna say auxiliary gym.
Well, yeah, the wrestling gym, volleyball gym, soccer gym. Big gym's over here in the field, right where it was at, we put the little T-ball over here.
Mitchell County likes some gym.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, when this, unless competitive team sports goes out to win. Mitchell County, if they pull this off correctly, has a great opportunity to make some money if there's tournaments. I was involved with it for years. You start doing travel basketball, you're bringing people in your community at the slowest retail time of the year. You flip that and you go travel baseball, travel softball, and you're getting out of the heat of the big cities and coming to the mountains. You're getting $150, $200 a team, guaranteed so many games. So this is not only a recreation complex, in my opinion, for our people, but it's a way for the county to generate some income that will be consistent income with not a lot of maintenance costs behind.
I have a motion on the table to approve moving forward with.
What's the difference in price, Alan, in getting one site built versus two, do you know?
The prices running 7,000 or 8,000 bucks. Wasn't that right, mate?
What's that, 7,800?
Somewhere
I
in
was
that ballpark.
thinking-
What I read. We've already had this one.
First site, yeah, so. Due diligence, now, anything we do on these sites, it's gonna have board approval. I mean, so that's it, we're kind of spitballing a little bit in there, but that was a.
We learned from the, if I may say, I think we learned a lot from the law enforcement community that don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I think all they're trying to do is look at A and B and then try to look at the plans, look at the calls, see where our money is gonna best go. Even though we did get the, Cardiff grant, and so we have the 2 million from the state, we have 500 from the Cardiff grant, plus the 500 that you as the board matched, approved to match the Cardiff grant. So basically right now, we're sitting at 3 million. So, we want to try to make sure that, we do the most cost effective.
Seems like a wise decision to thoroughly vet all our options.
We'll do you some cost projection analysis on that, so where you'll know kind of what you're looking
And
at.
so you look at the design, you really don't know either, so we really look at the design.
I move we, go forward with. That's the most sites.
Second.
All in favor, sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda this evening is the medical director, assistant medical director contract. I believe those were, those signed, and we just need to see the contract's been signed by Josh Newton, and will need to be signed by the board and Dr. K.
Dr. Kate said he will sign that, he's just, I don't want to get the emails, so the board hasn't signed it, when he signs, we'll be able to move forward.
So basically, it gives me, this basically is a vote to allow me to go ahead and sign that contract, right?
I make a motion that we allow the chairman to go ahead and sign it, and then no changes in the contract.
Second,
All in favor, move to sign. Motion carries.
hey, when we reach out to Dr. K, it's like speak to him about serving on that CCP.
Yeah.
It's 40 and it's 40. And it's overall, I think a good fit for that.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Next item on the list, I spoke to it last time, was the workforce development board appointments. I don't know if you guys had any chance to talk to anybody or think about any for the High Country workforce development board appointees. We can appoint two from the private sector in the county to represent us on that. If you guys had time to think about that, a couple of names that I had thought about personally is, Bud Young is he's the plant manager there, is at the Courts Court, and then Curtis Taylor is also I think the plant manager there at the BRP. I know both of those are impacting in our community from a hiring, workforce, and I've not talked to either one of those guys. That was just in my head, some folks, through the bigger industries here in the area. I don't know if you guys have got, I'm like I say, I don't have a clue. I've not talked to either one of them to know if they would be interested. I think that development board meets, I don't think it meets monthly. I think it's a quarterly meeting. I believe it's what they decided to meet, so.
That's your key.
Yes, and but they've got some new ones in there too.
I like those options and, give those guys a try. So they're on Dr. Board, not big, but,
The community college. See, I don't think he's eligible since he's not from the private sector. You gotta be from private industry to.
I like what those individuals think.
If the board.
Hey, are we, do we,
I gotta talk to
do
him.
we just want to go ahead and draft them in? If they're ready to come back and draw board or what?
I don't know.
I like that plan, Vern.
Yeah, but
Okay,
there's not a big rush. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about those two names and,
need a motion to table?
if you guys will allow me, I'll vet that for the next meeting. I don't think Bud or Curtis will kill me. I think they would be a good asset for that because they're very integrated in the community as far as hiring and needs.
I mean, Julie Wiggins is the new director for course director for.
Yeah.
Meeting, I'm meeting with them.
Gotcha.
Good,
Good.
we can bring that up. Yeah.
She's taking that on as well as the director.
Yeah.
I think it's good. If you guys are good with it, I will move forward with talking to those guys and for the next meeting, maybe we can make this point. If those guys are okay with it. All right. Next up is the floodplain, ordinance. I believe. We just need to do a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion carried. Is there a consent agenda? I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I got a question. Ladies, we sold some on Bill Deals recently, didn't we? What did we sell and what did it bring?
It was, one of Sheila's vehicles. The good news is after all the fees and everything, I think it was turned out to be about $29,000. We put a minimum of 75 on it. It brought 33, but they of course take their profit from their fees out, and we got about 29. The bad news is, according to Sheila's investigation with the new regulation that apparently happened last November, she was not aware of, and I definitely not heard anything about it. Because that vehicle was purchased with 90% state and federal money,
No.
they will call back anything over 5,000. So all we're gonna get is 5,000. We will end up having to pay back the state and federal any money over that. So,
And I bet that's gonna be true with all transportation
Yeah.
vehicles. so
right,
all-
apparently this is a change, and I've asked to see that in writing, and they're supposed to be sending it to her. Apparently the state's just been a little bit slow in rolling it out, but she did have a phone conversation and she was informed. Now, how long it takes them to come ask for the money, because I don't know how long it'll take, so. We're waiting on payment on that. The guy said to come Friday and pick it up, and we'll verify the payments there before, of course, we release it on Friday, but it's sold to someone out of California.
They're gonna transport it from California.
I think he's actually picking up a vehicle in South Carolina and then swinging up here and picking this one up.
So That takes away from the good, huh?
Yeah.
So, help me play this out in my mind here. These vehicles that's purchased with that federal money, if we're going to auction these off, you know where I'm going with this? Set a maximum of $5,000.
Keep it high.
No, I'm just saying, we do need to look at where these vehicles could be utilized. We can transfer them intergovernmental to other, like we transferred one to the health department, we transferred one to animal rescue. I mean, if they're a decent enough, and like she said, she's not even gonna get a vehicle next year, so. You know, we do need to look at our internal needs, if it's worth, or some other department or agency could use it. You know, we do need to utilize that, but in the future,
You
if
could
it
probably-
were going GovDot deal in the future, I'm not sure that it is. Because all we're gonna get is $5,000.
Yes. So could you say, for instance, where we transferred that with the animal shelter? I know the animal shelter is a not-for-profit 501c3, but they're
But it's
still.
the
it's
agency
an
that we're
agency.
required by statute to fund and operate. See, our
So,
operate money goes to them, so they're considered.
so could we
a-
also transfer those to like, Safe Place or?
We don't know, that's different. See, we are statutorily obligated to fund the animal rescue, remember that was a
Yeah.
referendum that was voted on. That's different than a normal nonprofit.
Okay, well, we're not doing it.
Now, you know, we could put it up for sale in a safe place, of course, could get on and buy. We have sold some to nonprofit agencies, churches and
As long
things.
as we don't sell it for more than $5,000.
Well,
More five, you just gonna keep five. I mean, if we're just keeping five, keep it local, maybe, I mean, it might be a better way to go, truthfully. Let's say versus FedEx. Yeah, I heard it before.
Well, I
it's a
like
lot
that,
of
I like
work.
that idea of keeping it local too. you know.
well, I do too. I mean, if there's someone that can benefit from it. I'm afraid what's gonna happen though, in the next few years, it's gonna be in all departments because of the inability to get vehicles through government pricing right now. You are gonna go probably a year or two with no vehicles. And so what's gonna happen probably in 2 to 3 years from now, we're gonna be replacing a lot of vehicles when they opens back up. But our vehicles that will be available are gonna be very high mileage and in very poor shape. So I see that being an issue. I mean, we're not able to get the sheriff's department one that we had our name on the list since March. DSS is probably not gonna get theirs this year. And to be honest, I don't see them getting them next year. I mean, I don't know that much about the automobile market, but the problem is what's out there is going to private sector. It's not being offered on the government pricing, and we honestly can't afford to go out and buy in private sector. We have to buy through
What do you say?
government pricing. Huh?
Roughly, you 5%, 7%, 10%,
What?
more than that. The buy on the government sector versus the public
Oh, it's
sector,
a lot.
a lot more than that.
I mean, yeah. Like those traverses last year, we paid what? 28 for those, and sheriff's department vehicles are running you, those big trucks are running 35. Yeah, I mean, we can't go, I mean, we're not, I mean, we can't.
Leads us into the finance officer's report. Let's get a little early.
I'll answer any questions y'all have, but really, I'll just give you an update. We are still in the audit process. And honestly, it's a little slow, painful this year. Things are slow. We're having a hard time getting confirmation numbers from state. It's a slow process. We're, still working on gathering some information. We've also in the middle of doing our workers' comp audit. And, of course, we have till the end of October with our audit, and I'm not concerned. I think it'll actually get completed this month. It's just that normally we're a little further along than we are right now. But getting our money from the state has been a problem. They did work on, balancing taxes and everything last week, and it does look like, I mean, there might be a little tweak, but we're gonna hit the best tax collection rate we've ever had. It looks like it's gonna end up around 97.52, and that versus last year's of 96.81. So that is really remarkable, thanks to Blair and his team. We also came in, I think Blair and I looked at it, talked about it this afternoon. This is the second best year in prior year tax collection. We had one other year that we did a little bit better in prior year tax collection. So this is the second best year in prior year. So they've done a good job in going after those prior year taxes and collecting them. And the bottom line is, and I know I heard a little bit of what DSS was talking about with their, she worked on, I sent her some reports today, and I know she worked on some final year numbers and that she saved money here. And but we know that all departments, number one, got more revenue than we budgeted and controlled expenses. So the bottom line is, I think the audit's going to come in so much better than what we originally thought as far as the bottom line. And I do hope we ended up last year with a fund balance of 23%. And I have everything crossed that we are going to hold and come back in at around 23%. And that will be a great thing if that happens. So that's what we're all working towards right now, but we are still in the process. We are very busy. I'm surprised Alan's still here since he's been here. I don't think he's not had a second to breathe, and I keep telling him that this is, and I promise you, the busiest time I've ever experienced since I've been here, and it's just because we do have so many different pots of money that have so many different regulations. We have the opioid money, we have the ARPA money, we have all this grant money, there's just so much going on right now, and we are so inundated with paperwork, regulations, audits, and there's just a lot of work going on right now. So kudos to him for hanging in there, because I don't think anyone else would have lasted.
We've had 2 meetings a month. The first meeting we had, or the last meeting we had down to M. All items for discussion tonight were in queue, so. And it's, you know, it ain't like I feel you.
There's a lot, and then one thing I will say when you talk about all this work, I do have one question when we talked about Dean doing the foreclosures. Dean, do we need to do a new contract for you just to do that portion? How are we gonna do that?
Well, we can't do a contract.
I would do something, either amend the one you have or do some kind of small agreement, because I'm thinking for audit purposes, if I continue to pay you, I need something. We don't want to get in trouble, and she's your sister, and she will pick up on that very quickly. If we don't have some, so, you don't care, Alan, can we get some kind of real agreement for him too?
Something Maeve's mentioned, I think is a good idea. I think should explore, we're getting a lot of questions like on the DSS side about that opioid settlement money. I know we have some plans for how we're gonna use that. But Maeve's has mentioned the possibility of doing maybe a application program or
You need some kind of committee or you, the board, you need some process for people to come in and vent their ideas or make their request or present a program. I like, Dustin saying that he's already seen what some counties are doing. They've got some plans. They know where the money might be. What you have to remember with this money is so far we've only gotten about $73,000. So you don't, not like you can go out there and spend a lot of money. So I think it's not, and we're not one of the counties that's getting multi-millions. I mean, and ours is spread out over 18 years, just like theirs is. But I think you do have to have a plan of how you're going to utilize that money and realize that it's not going to sustain something new for a long time. You're going to be able to supplement or enhance a program, but you're not going to be able with that small amount of money every year. You can't start a program and sustain it every year. That's just my opinion.
I agree with that. I like what Dustin said about, let's make sure, if we have some kind of committee, accept an application, I'd like to see you on there, because I like what we said about, let's make sure. we're
You
not
need to
paying
pull
for something.
everybody, all the players together and have like a workshop one day for 2 or 3 hours. Bring Biden and bring the drug task force, whoever it is. I don't know all the players. You need to have a roundtable discussion and make, he said he had 9 priorities that Bob's working on. We need to figure out what are the priorities and where do you want to spend that other movement. And we have already chosen, you've chosen, was it standard 2 or standard, whatever it was, the less encumbered.
And it's right.
It's preventative, I think. It's been a while since I've looked at those documents, but we need to pull those out and dust them off at some point. And, you need to have a roundtable.
And I know, we have some plans for, what to do with some of it. Need to figure out how much exactly we're gonna have.
Well, and it may not be that the county doesn't want to elect to do that, but we do have some expenses in our current budget that would qualify. Drug court is one of them, that's $30,000 a year. If we chose that as one of our priorities, then we could reimburse ourselves for the cost for putting in the drug court. Maybe we need drug court more than whatever we have it or whatever. The other program that would qualify would be DARE. If that chose to be one of your priorities, we could reimburse ourselves for some DARE expenses. So also you have there's a gray area, but maintenance of effort to your LME might even qualify in there. I'm not sure.
I like the idea of using it for some of our current existing preventative expenses, and then figuring out what we have left, and how to best use that to kind of address some of that damage done by the opioids and everything.
The only thing is, I guess, number one, we've had so much on our plate that you guys, that's not been a priority right now, and the money, we just have gotten the first little bit of it. So my hopes were that once we get these projects kind of under contract and those moving, then we could pull somebody together, maybe, when things slow down just a little bit, and we need to start focusing on that, because people are going to come knocking on your door for that money.
Well, Celebrate Recovery, came one night, search group.
Yeah.
Big brother, big sisters asked.
From some place out there, so.
Getting a lot of questions. I keep saying, well, we've got some plans for some of it already. So I'm thinking,
And it may be your first bet would be sit down maybe with Vi, if they've already looked at the priorities or the need. Maybe instead of doing a full round table, maybe select 1 or 2 and kind of get the feel of where they think the money needs to be spent in the community. And then pull everybody in that's been asking and let them present or request or ask and see if it meets your priority. It's gonna be a process, and unfortunately, it's not gonna be a easy process to narrow that down, because you don't have a lot of money.
actually, if we use it to fund our existing programs, we have around 20,000.
So that's just the first draw of 73,000. I think the next draw is 87,000 maybe, and we have been told that would come this summer, we've not seen it. So I have no clue on when that one's coming. So you have to remember, you're just getting a little bit every year for 18 years. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Had a county manager or county department head meeting last week. And we did a
It was so
garden
fun.
theme dinner. Everybody brought stuff. Mr. Hardy was able to partake, and yeah, we had some really good food, and it was just a great group of department heads that do a lot of hard work. Sometimes they're the ones we don't really hear about. Sometimes they're in the trenches. They're the boots on the ground, just to mention some of them that were there. We got the reports from each department, and everyone's working hard. Many are understaffed. Many have
working with limited staff, and they're still getting the job done, but you got, folks like emergency management, elections, extension, senior center, communication, maintenance, recycling, recreation, inspection. I was going to mention them all. Sheriff's Department, DSS, Register of Deeds, Tax Office, Finance, Transportation, Veterans Services. Think about what our county do without all that. A veteran, for example, coming in and, not able to get linked to the proper services that they need. DSS, as we see, child protective and adult protective, that's a need. Of course, finance over there, they're in the trenches. I've been at this job 5 months, and definitely you can have that citizen perspective. And then when you jump into this, I know you all as board members know, you're looking at the nuts and bolts and the cogs and how that turns and who it impacts day to day. So, that was something I just wanted to pause and thank our departments. They busted day in and day out. We've had maintenance over here fixing something for us today. They're there when we call, when the departments call. We have elections coming up, so I know those girls are working all this. So much going on. So with that, I wanted to mention as far as the $500,000 part grant for Mitchell County, going towards the recreational complex. Have that 500,000 match, as may have said, from the commission board. I want to give a special thanks to Brock Duncan, Stan Cook, Lloyd Heiss, and Drew Fletner as they navigate this through that grant process. So that's awesome. We're doing geotech drilling, as we talked about earlier. We hope by late fall to maybe start some RFQ on an architect for this recreational complex. So that's exciting. Speaking of other bills, the Law Enforcement Center, we have the architect currently Mosley in design phase right now. They should have us some renderings of what our law enforcement center might look like in about, I'm hoping, the month of October. I'm touching base with them. Tomorrow we're doing a worker appreciation lunch that was sponsored by State Employees Association of North Carolina, and it is for the recycling center workers. So, that's some of the ones that are in the trenches. They're sometimes the face of Mitchell County. Before I got this job, probably the most contact I had with a Mitchell County worker was when I took my trash to the recycling center, and I talked to those folks, and they were always super helpful and super friendly. So we're going to do a worker appreciation lunch for that tomorrow. And then the final thing I was going to talk about was last week I attended the National Overdose Awareness Service at the Mitchell High. And I just guess we all have that maybe impact us through our families in certain ways or through our friends, but I never really took the time to approach those feelings until I listened to those parents or those spouses talk about the impact that addiction and overdose and the death and the void. And that goes along with our opioid discussion. Those folks, as I listened, I thought, what if my daughter, ended up going down that road and struggled with that, and then I lost her? What a deep pain. Is there something we can do as a county to really focus those funds to stop that heartache and that prevent that cycle?
Should we understand?
We need understanding on that for sure. But yeah, anyhow, that was kind of the last little bit of what I was talking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Technology, I'm sorry. Worst time in the world.
Anything else from the attorney's desk this evening?
Nothing.
I believe we have any need for a closed session tonight. Board comments. Commissioner Hart?
I'd say great work, guys. January we set goals. And in September, 3 major goals have been accomplished, so y'all will be proud of yourselves. And I'm proud of you, I'm proud of all of us for what we've done. Administration, pulling this off, hard work, finance, so. You know, a lot of times this is a very thankless position that we sit in. But I think this board has worked tirelessly and very hard. And taking a little bit of criticism, but I think we're progressing to make it better than we think. So, good job, guys.
I would echo some of what Commissioner Harding just said, as I looked over the agenda for tonight. First of all, I am extremely pleased and proud that the Cardiff grant came through. I appreciate everyone's hard work on that. The county manager mentioned some names specific, and I do appreciate all the hard work from them. That, one day when we look at that project, I mean, that's going to be huge. That's gonna be good. And I appreciate all the hard work on that. Also, the things that may not be as tremendous as that from the visible naked eye that we worked on tonight. I'm tickled that we've been able to get a new medical director in place for EMS and assistant medical director. And those are local people living and residing in their local communities. And I'm tickled to death that that's in place. And also from the standpoint of county attorney, I appreciate all Dean has done for us in the last couple of years. Hate to see this happen, but completely understand, and I'm thankful that we're going to have capable hands coming back there to work on those things. Like Commissioner Harding said, we took some criticism the last couple of months, particularly have been rather difficult. And I know the whole board has experienced that. It is a thankless job sometimes, but I'm proud of everything that's been accomplished. Some things none of us wanted to happen the way they did, in particular what's happened in the last 2 or 3 months. That impacts all of us and hurts all of us. You know, we heard the tax collection rate and line with some of those payments, and it hurts. It hurts drastically. And I know it does with everybody. But thanks to everybody here and to our administration and everybody that's worked really hard for the citizens of this county. I appreciate each of you.
Mr. Bitten, Mr. Matt.
No comment.
I have moved to adjourn.
Someone.
Second.